We're at the Holland View Trail Senior Center, and I'm interviewing Heather McKenzie, who has agreed to share some of her stories of her life in Aurora. Were you born in Aurora, or did you move here?
No, I was born in Toronto. I was about 10 when we moved out here.
What was Aurora like when you were younger?
Very different than today. It was a very small town.
Do you know how many people there were?
About 2,500.
How many schools were there?
One public school, one high school. The public school served the town. The high school served the surrounding area. They came in from King Township and all over.
And did you go to school here?
For 2 years.
And then where did you go after?
I went down to Coburg to a girls' school there.
Was it boarding school?
Yes.
So what was your best memory of boarding school?
I enjoyed it. It was very different. There was a little touch of England brought out here during the war years. And the Ontario script, for instance, was absolutely forbidden. We had to learn to write in the straight mode that the British schools taught.
Can you tell me about your husband?
Well, he was born down near Windsor, and they moved here, trying to think. I think he was going in first form high school when the family moved here. His dad was the manager of the old Imperial Bank, which became the Imperial Bank of Commerce.
And how did you two meet?
Right?
How did you two meet?
How did we meet? Oh, well, he knew pretty well everybody in town. More or less. Mind you, he was overseas during the war. And when the boys came back, there was a party every night. It was a short time after they were back. And I knew the other parts of his family.
What about your kids? Can you tell me about them?
Well, 3. Our eldest, Linda, has gone into nursing, and it just floors me what she's able to do. Our eldest boy, he's traveled the world. He's been in India a couple of times, and he's living out in BC now. And our youngest boy went through the school system here and bought out Don Greenham's menswear. And it was a very successful business while Garrett was there.
Can you tell me about the McKenzie Marsh?
Oh, that's something that wasn't exactly planned. It just kind of grew like topsy. And the government approached us and said, "You've got a piece of land there that really isn't suitable for building and that type of thing. But we would like to put a dam in the north end of that low area and create a pond." It was just pasture land when we took it over. And as kids, we used to skate there, it would flood. And little tufts of vegetation, and you have to skate around them. But anyway, once the dam was established and flooded, never very deep, but deep enough, there was a very aggressive photographer came in, and he was determined he was going to get pictures of some of the wildlife that had established themselves there. And we didn't want people disturbing the wildlife. This was to be a reserve for the wildlife, not for people. And one time there was a chap came in and he had the most gorgeous telephoto lens and that sort of thing. And by this time we had built a home on the west side of the pond and up on the ridge. And I was just like a fishwife out there, waving my hand around, telling him to get out of the marsh. It wasn't for people. And the last we saw of him, he has his camera, gorgeous equipment, up like this, and he was drenched in cold spring water. We haven't seen him since.
You told me before you had horses when you were young?
We had horses. We had work horses. I mean, it was a functioning farm that my mother had earlier up on Old Young Street. But we also boarded friends' horses, and they were delighted to have a place. They were also delighted the fact that I loved to take the horses out and exercise them midweek. When these are mostly for a lot of people, and they'd be out on the weekend to ride their horses. But I love to take them out midweek and give them a little exercise.
How was Aurora when your kids were young different from Aurora when you were young?
It was just in the process of changing, I guess. When we were young, my generation was young, we did something stupid. Your parents knew about it before you got home. It was a great control, shall we say. But when our children were growing up, we looked out for each other's children. And that was acceptable. I mean, if those children got out of line, we felt perfectly free to verbally direct them back on an acceptable path.
Did you do any activities or sports?
Well, I curled competitively. That's my Robertson trophy. These were the old-fashioned, straw brooms, not the little things that they use today. But I did a lot of interclub competitive curling. I loved it.
Church? Did you go to church? Church? Where did you go to church?
Oh, the Eternity Adler. In those days, you were expected to turn up at church, complete with hat and white gloves. Having the 3 children, they were just nice in public school, all dressed with their Sunday best and so forth. Got up there. There's nothing happening at the church. I forgot that it was a time change. We were an hour early. Oh.
The soapbox derby, can you tell me about that?
Well, we didn't have television and things like that. We made our own fun, and this was a real local activity. And there was a chap that had worked for us on the farm, that at this point was on the town employment, and Percy Garlic, and he was able to control Tyler Street, build a ramp, and the kids made the soapboxes with a lot of help from the fathers, I might say. But I know our youngest boy, his soapbox was made basically from the framework of the baby carriage. And then the steering column was a broom handle, and there were straps around that broom handle which gave the steering for the creation. And there was a second boy just down the street. The kids, they knew each other. And one would win one competition, and the other would win the next one. They were, friendly competitors. And there were a few others, of course, that were running. But with the ramp at the top was Tyler Street at the south side of where the United Church was. That gave them a fast start, and they went zooming down there. We've got a picture of our Gary complete with hockey helmet as the driver of his soapbox. And we would put these things in the trunk of the car and compete up in Newmarket too.
Do you have the most memorable Aurora moment from when you were young?
Oh gosh. I suppose the fire down on the main street was one awful thing. It was on the west side of Young Street, just south of Wellington. And anybody that was free to, turned out to lend a hand.
And when was that? When was that?
Can't give you the year. Hurricane Hazel was certainly another one too. We were planning a scavenger hunt party for the night that Hurricane Hazel hit. And it was the funniest feeling to have sent all these friends out to find pith helmets and horse collars and all kinds of crazy stuff they had to bring back to our house. We were sitting there 11 o'clock at night throwing a party. Nobody there but us. All these people were all out hunting. My husband's father was inclined to turn in early, and one of the things they had to have was, he was known as H.M. McKenzie, and they had to have H.M.'s signature. And he had all these people knocking on the door for his signature. He wasn't amused. But anyway, it was a good party. But people went all the way around to Uxbridge to be able to get to Aurora, because Young Street there has dips, as you know. But it was impossible. It was pretty scary. Crazy things. Like, there's one man that, don't ask me why, we had a water tower immediately west of where Park Manor is, up on the ridge. Mm-hmm. This man took his bicycle and put it on the top of the water tower. He was known for doing irregular things. And another group had it in for a gentleman that didn't like kids, I guess. I think I told you this. And they were, in those days, not everybody had indoor plumbing. And they waited for him to walk the path down to his outhouse. And then they must have had a scoop of some sort ready. Anyway, they scooped him inside the outhouse and deposited him in front of the United Church. Those things were just unheard of in those days.
Thank you for coming, Heather, and for sharing your stories.